All right, welcome to another episode of Panical, a podcast for geeks, the show about good friends hanging out, talking about things we all love. Our guest today is Rebecca. I always butcher your last name, Yanovskaya.
Yeah, it's good.
Awesome, go me! I remember how to
Wow.
say it correctly. And you guys know my co-host Andrew Sides. We've been missing for 3 weeks now, I think, because of the holidays.
Winter
And
break. Yeah,
we'll
holidays.
call it winter break. We decided to take a break.
We're both dads. We've
All
got
right, welcome
family
to another
obligations.
episode of Panical, a
It
podcast for.
happens.
Yeah, I think I can hear my own audio, so I think we're okay. Anyone watching, if you can't hear me,
You sound good right now.
you won't be able to. Yeah, that's the thing we run into all the time, right? You can hear me, she can hear me, but then the audience is like, Alan looks like a mime.
Yeah.
Because welcome to Streamlabs breaking on us every chance but it seems to be working. Because welcome to Streamlabs break. Okay, yeah. I can hear myself on Twitch, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Usually I have Kerm testing with us, but I think he might be still sleeping. But Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to tell you it was live, so surprise. Anyone who's watching, feel free to ask questions once we start rolling here. But do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, or do you want me to just do a?
Sure. I'm an illustrator, freelance. I was from Canada, and I currently live in Massachusetts because I married.
I did not know that.
For love.
Boy, you're a dummy.
You gave up Canada for love.
I know. But he's great, and all my friends are down here anyways, so it's fun. I've come to accept it. But yeah, it's great for conventions. I can now, when everything calms down, I'll be able to actually drive to New England conventions, which I'm really excited for, and Chicago places, and
that's where
I was
I
gonna
live.
say you're in the Northeast, so you're basically prime real estate to attend a huge amount of conventions.
Yeah,
relatively
easy. To only do really big ones, or really important ones. But now I can just load up my car or get on a plane without having to go through customs, which really freaks me out. So I can see my friends more. And then a pandemic came, and everything hates me, but no, it's fine. So yeah, I do, book covers, games, just anything.
I saw you made a coin.
Yeah, I've done a couple coins. I actually just got another coin commission from the Canadian Mint.
Nice.
Nice.
I set aside January to do life stuff, and then they were like, hey, do you want to squeeze in another assignment due on February 1st? And I'm like,
I find we get those kind of projects, and you're like, part of me is always like, no, because I know the level of stress that's going to cause me. But then someone brought this up in the class with Scott Fisher last week. The other half, he's like, will these guys ever call me back if I say no? Am I shooting myself in the foot?
Severe FOMO. I cannot. If it's cool and prestigious, I'm like, I'll figure out a way to do it. Fuck it.
I'll stay up all night if I have to.
Yeah, I had that happen in the back half of December because I blocked off 2 weeks to finish out some gallery work, and also family. I figured okay, those 2 weeks, I'm probably gonna get 4 or 5 days at best of actual work. Everything else is taken up with family. And then during that, an agency I just started working with, they sent me an email asking me if I'd be available for a second job for them, and I was like, I'm really sorry, guys. I have to turn you down, but please contact me again in January. I'm totally available. And fortunately, they did. They pretty much contacted me right at the end of December and said hey, can we have you on at the start of January? So yeah, I had that brief moment of fear where I was like, oh shit, I hope I'm not turning this away and closing the store permanently. But they came back within 2 weeks and was like, hey, we need you at the start of this anyway. So, I get that. That's constant fear.
I had posted this thing the other day on Twitter, basically. So I'm working on a side project with Mark Chef, which I can say that much without getting in trouble. But I posted on Twitter saying sometimes I create a piece of art that I really love, Sometimes I create a piece of art that I really like, and sometimes I create stuff that I know is not that good, but I send it out anyway because I'm trying to meet a deadline, you know. And I was like, I need to stop doing the third thing, right? I didn't aim it at Mark, but he responded to it, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, I follow you on here. I saw this, you know. Thanks for hitting the deadline." And then I thought about that later, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Like it was totally not aimed at him. It was literally like I had multiple deadlines, and some of the stuff I hit, I was just like, you know, sometimes you turn in work and you're like, yeah, that's not the best stuff. Like if I had like another week's worth of time, maybe could have cranked out something cleaner, you know. The stuff I'm doing with Mark, I do feel that a little bit, but in his case, I asked him for more time. It's like I literally was like, don't submit that second thing I sent you because that's hot garbage. I know it's hot garbage, you know, like it was a rush project. So give me another week to finish it up. But I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of illustrators edge on that. And then there's this moment where you just have to be like, nope, I can't do. I said no to a board game company recently that I really like working with too. It's Renegade. You know, I did one. I said, oh God, I've said no to them twice now. So I feel like at some point they're going to be like, they're really chill with me. But I also feel like, again, I keep saying, I said no the first time because it was not enough pay and the timetable was they need it done in 2 weeks. And I was like, this is a 1 month project. There's no way it's going to happen. And then the second time it was pay, definitely pay. I was just like, I need more money. You're Renegade Games. I know you have the money. And I don't want to be a dick about it, right? I was just like, here's what it's going to cost. They were super chill though. They were like, no, we get it. Our budget is X. And I said, can you go this much past the budget? And they were like, the producer won't. I said, okay, well then I'm going to have to say no. It's just too much. I tried to be like, what if I give you this much for this cost? So you don't get all this stuff you wanted, but you'll get this much. And I presented a new idea. I said, what if I do this? And Andrew knows about this because he's the one who was helping me idea plan this, right? And I thought we came up with a really good solution. But at the end of the day, it was a hard no.
They wanted the full Monty.
They wanted the whole thing.
We also figured out some better ways to approach that in the future.
Yeah, you talk about that for a second, because that's something new that you told me about, and I was like, that's not a bad idea this will help future.
I'm trying to remember because that was like, it feels like an age ago, even though it was only like a few weeks ago.
It was literally like a month ago. Yeah. Well, if you don't remember, I definitely remember.
Wait, let me see if I can remember this right.
How do you not remember the thing you taught me to do?
Because my brain, like, I'll think of it, and then what happens is, like, if I tend to write it down or wherever, my brain's like, cool, we have it somewhere, let's info dump this. It makes space for something else that we can't, like, write down for the future. No, if I remember right, it was a case of you're offering them 3 different price points.
Correct.
And those 3 different price points have 3 different, they have certain amount of things within it. You have the base price, which is giving them exactly what they want, and it's for this price, and you're setting the price on that. You give them a higher set price where it's like you're paying a little bit more, but here's all this extra stuff that's like the pie in the sky things that you want. This is like, we're throwing the kitchen sink in for this price. And then you have your bottom barrel price where it's like, okay, if you can't afford those 2 prices, we have this. However, you're missing out on like half of the things you want.
Right.
Or it's going to be given very like rote, cut and dry, like bare bones, no real flair. Maybe something where it's like no real say in terms of like how many revisions they have or anything like that. And basically the idea is like, it's not really to get them to, if they go for the high tier one, that's awesome. But that's not really what that one's there for. Really what the 2 are there for is to frame it around the middle one, and for them to have a frame of context in mind of saying like, okay, what this middle one for this price makes sense because otherwise I'm paying for this thing and I'm getting a subpar product, or I'm having to pay extra. Maybe that's not within my budget. So now that knowing that like, okay, I can go above and beyond, but that's not in my budget. But if we come down, then I get this. And now all of a sudden it seems more reasonable than just saying a number and not having anything around it to give any kind of reference to.
I don't know. It's insulting that they're coming to you. They clearly know they're out of your budget. Like, why are they bullshitting you? Like,
here's
you are too good for them now. Like, it's ridiculous. You shouldn't have to like come up with these crazy combinations. Here, I'll do
Sure.
this. Just
and like most of the time, I would say like most clients, I would say you don't have to do that. Like usually
Right.
it's like
cut
a lot
and
of
dry.
like a lot of the agency I work for, they say like, what are your rates? And you give them the rates, and it's like, here's my half day, here's my day rate, and they're like, cool. We're gonna contact you with some work, and it's it's as simple as that.
Right. Well, let me point out that first off, I'm going to go on the record and say Renegade's a good company. Let's not trash on them.
No.
But let me say this. What I've learned,
like smaller companies,
business.
What I've learned,
to do with them.
Well, what I've learned with the board gaming industry, so there's a board gaming company, right? And what I've learned from the board gaming industry, and I don't know if it's in the other, like, it sounds like the advertising agencies just pay you. Like, they're like, here's what we got, here's the money.
There's so much money going into it.
Yeah.
It's not even, like, they look at me and it's like, oh, fuck, like $600 for, like, 2 days, whatever.
Whatever, here's the money, right?
Half. Yeah.
And I feel like every board game company I've had to deal with, so I was telling Andrew this, was I go through this process, right? And I don't know, and it probably costs a lot of money to make a game, but sometimes you're dealing with companies where you're like, you as a customer,
steamed now, sorry.
The hat came off. She's so mad. Well, like you as a customer, the value of that company, and then now you as an illustrator who has worked for that company before or dealt with someone there, you're like, you guys have the money. I get it. When you do a budget, you're like, we're gonna budget this amount to the artist. Where it's like, hey, you know what? I kind of want. I don't argue, but what I want to feel like saying something is, without my work on the cover, you're not moving that product, right? Like maybe you will. Who knows? But come on. Like, I didn't ask for, I'm not going to reveal the numbers, but Andrew knows the numbers. I didn't ask for that much more. It was just a little bit more outside of their budget. And in this scenario, the art director was really chill. She's cool with me, but the producer didn't want to up the cost, which is okay. But that's where you have to learn to say that hard no, right? Because what they're dealing with is, and there's another artist who does a lot of board games in the industry, and I'm friends with him, I'm not going to name him, but I've spoken to him before. And the problem is, there's artists like himself. This dude will work for a lower cost. So they'll be like, here's this $2,000 project. We're going to pay you $500. And he'll be like, sure, done. Because he works really quick, gets the work done, takes the money, calls it a day. But I said, the problem that's happening there is you're setting up the rest of us to fight harder.
You're devaluing the whole thing as a result.
Right. So the rest of us have to go in there, and because you'll hear them say, well, this dude did it for this cost. And you're like, yeah, well, I'm not that guy. If you want
his work sucks or it looks
no, it's
same.
Amazing. But it's like, go get him then. Like, why are you
but
bothering
also
me?
like, he can't do every game. Every game is going to look the same. At a certain point, they're going to be like, well, we do want to differentiate ourselves. This is a problem with the culture of creativity and art. Like, people, just because we like the games and we also enjoy gaming ourselves, they don't treat us like craftsmen, and like, they don't fucking nickel and dime their printers. They don't go,
right. Well, I'm just gonna lay that out there with their nonsense pricing.
They're not paying the renting of their office space less, but because artists are expected to love art and like, don't you just want to be part of this project? They think they can do it. And it's like, at a certain point, fine, go to that guy. And what about when your project doesn't sell because people are like, wait, this is the same art on everything?
Like usually it's like, and I think like a larger company like Asmodee, who's the parent company of like Fantasy Flight, that's very much the case, where it's like they're not hurting for money. It's them purely looking to see like, where can we cut costs? Oh, artists, they'll be fine with like working for peanuts.
It's always us. It's always the artists they get where they
But I do think like for a lot of tabletop games that are, because there's really only like a handful of like tabletop game companies that are financially huge and pretty doing okay. Most of them are like pretty mom and pop shop, like small shops, and I think it's like, for them, they do want to put out a good product. They just get scared of price, because it's like the equivalent of like, when if any of us ever had to deal with like, say, a small like self-published author or whatever, where they're like, they don't realize how much things cost and they just need frames of reference to be like, oh, okay, I understand now that I have the frame of reference, this price doesn't seem so bad. And they just need that kind of hand holding. And
I'll tell you,
for other industries, you don't need that necessarily. Like within advertising, that doesn't exist. It's the price is what it is.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I don't mind a lower price, but when they try to get a really short time, like a professional game studio timeline, and like insane amounts of detail and nitpickiness and a lower budget, no, like you pick 3.
Oh yeah, you're asking for like
a
the
lower
golden
price.
goose.
It's like I've worked for less money for like self-publishers, but I'm like, I'm gonna take as long. I have to slot you in to like real
wherever
jobs.
it can fit.
But you're like, I need this for $2 in 2 weeks. It's like,
no, yeah.
What?
Here, I'll tell you a story that's really gonna boil Rebecca up. There was a company. I'm not gonna name them. I'll tell you later privately if you want. But
they're all the same.
No, they're not. That's the thing. Like, I've worked with a couple board game houses, and like I already named Renegades. I'll say Renegade was very easy to work with. Like if I had taken this job, if I had started working with them on the project, it would have been very stress free to like move it along. Because the first game I did with them, like there was a little bit of a hiccup where I had asked for more time, because it was a time when my kid was born, and it was the very first game I was making. So I was like, I don't want to fuck this up and make it look like garbage. So I said, this is how much time I need. And there was moments where I stressed trying to get it done, but the art director was super chill. The producer on that project was super chill. They just liked everything I was turning in. They literally were like, here's what we want. Here's an idea of what we want. Tell us what you're thinking. And I said, here's what I'm thinking for this. Here's what I'm thinking for that. And every idea they were like cool with. On the opposite spectrum, I've worked with board game houses where they were like, we would like to bill you hourly. And I was like, you can go fuck yourself. Right?
Bill you hourly.
Hourly.
You know that?
This specific house, which I'm not going to name, was being very nitpicky. Like I'd turn in the work and they'd be like, did you really work 45 minutes here? And I'm like, I billed you to the hour.
Oh, jeez.
Like I'm not going to write down 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And I ended up not working for this company because I was like, I could tell where this was going to go if I kept going. But the story I was going to tell you was there was a company at Gen Con one year. I sat down with them. I love the idea for this game. It fit my aesthetic perfectly. I was super excited to work with them, but they wouldn't meet me on the cost. And it got to the point where one of the owners of that company called me one day and was like, yeah, we can't afford this. We're not going to pay you this. It's too much. We're just going to have our in-house artists emulate your style. And I was like, cool. Also,
wow.
I said, don't ever say that to an artist. I was like, it's super insulting that you just said that to me.
Yeah.
And I refuse to work with these guys.
They're lucky you didn't tape that, because you could totally sue them for that.
Yeah,
if the guy said it to your face and you had it on recording, like that's not.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to say that, right? But also, like the thing was, I was so mad about that. I didn't name them, but I posted on social saying this company just said this to me, and I had all these art directors from game houses messaging me saying, "Who is it? Who is it? Tell me." And I'm just like, no. I was like, if I see you at a show and we talk face to face, I'll definitely tell you, because fuck them. Like, you shouldn't say that shit to an artist. But I'm not gonna post it. Like, my lawyer would kill me if I was like, this is the company, here we go,
Yeah.
Or if I said it right now on air. My lawyer lives down the street here. He'd probably come over here and kick my ass. So, like, what are you
Before
fucking
the show's
doing?
over, you just hear knocking on the door.
I'd be like, is that Greg? Don't let him in. But yeah, I will never work with this company. I've seen them at shows before. They actually stopped by my booth. I think it was Origins or Gen Con again, to try to get me potentially do stuff. I've seen the game that they were talking about. It looks like, it does not look like my work. Two artists figured it out. They saw it on Kickstarter one day and messaged me and was like, is it this game? And I was just like, mm-hmm.
I wonder if their lawyer was like, you said what to who? What the fuck?
He said it out loud, and I was like, that's one of those moments, right? Where you're like, I wish somebody had recorded this, or I wish he would have sent that to me in an email, but he said it to me verbally. So it's just like, so he can easily just be like, that's not what I said. But it's like, but it is. Because if it wasn't, why wouldn't I just do the job?
I remember messaging you about a game I saw a while back. I was like, did you work on this? This looks a lot like you. Was that game? Or I don't know.
I don't think it was that game. There was somebody did figure out the one game I was talking about, and I was like, yeah, it looks nothing like my work. I mean, it's because it's like, it would be like me trying to do Rebecca's work. I'd probably lose my goddamn mind.
You could fake it kind of, but it's not going to have the right marks and the right decisions and that kind of thing. The thing that makes her work.
Yeah,
her work.
the thing that makes our work won't be as part of the.
I mean, too much color, man. He'd put like neon green and stuff in it, and we'll be like,
just take one of your. So here's the thing: anyone watching, feel free to ask questions too. I see a bunch of people watching, which is awesome. When I don't know if you're still doing. I know early on when I first met your style, you're doing a lot of artwork with ballpoint pen.
You know, I was looking at some of your work recently. I was surprised to see that you had some of your fine art that had a color in it.
yeah. Oh, so I'm going back to the black and white. I haven't found a way to integrate it yet. I
have a question because I want to say the one year that I saw your work at LuxCon, I saw the one you had a huge painting there. Christ, I think it was like 3-4 feet across or something like that. It seemed about that size.
Yeah,
what is your general working size?
This LuxCon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So what's your general working size when you have to consider like the fidelity of ballpoint, where it's like you can really kind of only get so small before the marks look too large for what it is?
So never gonna go that big again. That was the last time, and so that's kind of why I started like experimenting with paint and color, because it just was taking me too long to fill in large areas. And so I was like, I need a medium that I can do the smaller figures or like detail in ballpoint and then just do something to fill the backgrounds. And I like to like the max. The other thing is I like to work on moleskin, and the largest size they have is the 11 by 17. So that's kind of as big as I probably would go. But I also started working on clayboard, which is also nice, and that I can go bigger. But yeah, I mean, it's a time versus effort kind of thing.
I imagine that takes you a long time.
Yeah.
Like I saw some of the, anyone who's lucky enough to see the work live at a LuxCon stuff, you can actually see all the tiny details where I was just like, nope. Like, it's just like, I don't have the patience for that. But I'm also like, my style is used to doing giant walls of graffiti, right? I wish I could take what I have now and put it on like just paint on giant walls, but I don't have the patience for that anymore. 20-year-old me did.
Yeah.
A currently older version of me does not. So
I mean, the largest I've worked is 18 by 24, and I have zero desire to go larger than that.
Yeah,
it's just, and like at least for me, like because I use a lot of colored pencil work and all that within it, and doing like that pick out thing with the gouache and all that. It's like the same thing as you, Rebecca. It's just takes time the larger you get, and there's a certain point where like beyond that size, you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm still working on this thing.
Do you have a sponsorship from Bic at all? Why haven't you reached out?
Use Bix, first of all.
My bad.
No, I mean,
whoever you're using, I mean,
they don't care. People will use their stuff. They're so ubiquitous that people will use their pens. They don't need to sponsor people.
I was gonna say they'd probably be more surprised that you don't.
But also, sponsorships come with restrictions. Like they might be like, you can't draw. Like, I don't think they want naked ladies. Being,
that's
like,
true. Representing their brand.
Them. Yeah, and and like, does that mean I can't curse at the pen? Like what if I'm having trouble with it? I'm like, you gotta only love it.
She's like live tweeting. She's like, fuck this pen. It exploded all over my art. That's the other thing I was gonna ask you. Like, I mean, I guess a ballpoint pen doesn't. I mean, I've seen ballpoint pens explode if you're handling them wrong. I'm always afraid. Like, we got our friends and our artists in our industry who do a lot of ink work, and they do a lot of like fine ink work with pens, and I'm always like, I would always have when I used to do ink work, I always had problems where it would like leak outside of the line. Some people work that into their painting, whereas I'd be like, I'm fucking done. Like, level of stress goes from 0 to 11 right away, right? And you're like,
well, I once I was finishing up a drawing, and I was doing the gold leafing, and I spilled the glue all over like the bottom part of the piece.
Oh no.
So I just put gold leaf on it and was like, I do that.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the gold leaf stuff you have on your site. It's really awesome. Like the like this, this cool Wonder Woman.
The problem for me was that because cross hatching, like you have to do it in layers. By the time you get to do the fun stuff, like the detail stuff, like the scales or the hair, you have to spend like hours putting down a base value, and that was just driving me nuts because I'd be like, there's like a big, body part, and I can't get into the fun shading until I have like a completely flat, even baseline. So I was with the paint, I was like, can I just at least get like a grayscale tone that I can then work on top of? But I mean, I'm still working on it. I talked to Zach Stella at a LuxCon this year, and like he definitely had some good insights of what isn't working. Like the texture is getting lost, because I actually, like my whole life, I thought, oh, you have to be a painter. Like I studied oil painting. Like as a kid, college, I was still trying to be an oil painter. And so my instinct is always, you just paint. You paint and then you cover things with paint. And, I'm even like kind of impasto almost. Like I really like thick textural paint. And then people are like, well, it doesn't look like your stuff. It doesn't look good because my heart's not in it. I'm not, I know how to paint, but I'm not I don't love paint enough to work hard at making it look great. So I'm still trying to meld them together. We'll see.
Yeah, so I've been trying to, after I talked to a bunch of you guys at LuxCon this last year. It happens every year I'm at a LuxCon with you guys. People get on my ass about painting traditionally in my style. And I think we're
all still waiting for the collages.
I'm trying. So I talked to Aiden Roberts, who all of us, I think, know. Maybe Andrew, you know him. You've met him. You just don't remember. If you don't, he does a lot of.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
So I had a call with him last week. It was amazing. He was walking me through like how he uses all his little techniques and tricks. I'm not gonna reveal them live here.
He wears bright gold shoes, like
he always has like gold sneakers on. He's got like he wears like these like it looks like Egyptian like
bondage,
jewelry,
strappy, what are they called? Like short shorts and like.
It looks like he's gonna go to the Pride Parade. He's like ready to dance.
I'll have to Google. Like I'm trying to imagine.
He's been at every LuxCon we've been at. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember if he was at Spectrum.
He doesn't have it now, but he had bright blonde hair. He had like platinum hair.
Yeah, he did. So he sat down with me for like an hour and a half and gave me a bunch of advice, and I gotta go pick up some supplies. But I feel like I might be able to get stuff ready. I'm not in the main show this year at LuxCon. I couldn't get artwork done on time. I did make an effort though. I tried to get 2 pieces done. They look like garbage. I said, never showing this to anybody. But that's not to say I'm not gonna try it. But I get what you're saying with the I fight the paint because I'm used to either spray paint or inks. I did a lot of inks when I was younger, and then acrylics and oils. It's like one of those things where I just was like, nah, I don't like the way this stuff flows. I don't like the way this stuff feels.
Actually, I have a question. Why have you never done, if you're used to spray paint, why have you never done like airbrush with like stencils and stuff as like your base?
So I need to invest in an airbrush.
Or spray paint. Why don't you just do spray paint?
So I tried doing some stuff with Montana Gold cans, individual cans, because they have like their own like little nozzles and all that. But I think what Andrew's saying is the angle. I need a airbrush. I think I need more control. Because what happens with the spray paint is if you're gonna do a spray can, you gotta have like a big canvas There's no way in fuck
There's
you should
a
be using Montana Gold on a small canvas. You'll lose your goddamn mind if you screw up. Doesn't matter how much control you have with that house.
There's one artist. His name is Ben Oliver. He does. He kind of does like, well, he does a better version of basically what I do. But he does like a lot of his laying his base colors using spray paint. Like he just, I think he's used the airbrush here and there, but he at this point he's like, nah, just for sketches and shit, I just use spray paint. And I think he has a similar background to you.
So Sam Weber, I was TAing his class this past semester, and one, I found out he uses airbrush, and two, he was saying that like there's those high flow acrylics, and I mean, it sounds like you would really like airbrush because it's like a mini spray paint can. And I actually thought I actually also want to get an airbrush because I think that might solve my problem because I'm bad at like getting a nice even tone. And if I could just like airbrush in like a nice neutral value in the background and then go on top, and it's plastic, right? It's acrylic. So
I mean, I figure with an airbrush, it'd be great because I would I would A, have an airbrush for the artwork I want to create, and B, have the airbrush for the Gundams I want to paint. So it's like I'd be hitting two, and I've been doing a lot of kit bashing, and the airbrush would come in perfectly like handy there.
Gundams.
Well, I actually bought a bunch of Gundams I took apart. You'd not be happy with what I did to them. I kit bashed them all together to make spaceships and such. So, but I also,
they're
whatever.
robots. They don't have feelings, Alan.
I guess they're mechs, right? They don't have any feelings.
Yes.
We just put them together, take them apart.
I know we talked about like which airbrush gun, like in the past, like we talked about.
We keep going back and forth on them because I need a good airbrush and I need a good compressor. Because the thing is, back in the day, compressors that I used to get were super fucking loud.
There's non-compressor airbrushes now. You don't need a compressor.
What?
So Drew Struzan, Dan Dos Santos told us this, is that Drew Struzan gets canisters of
basically scuba tanks of nitrogen.
Yeah, and
that sounds dangerous.
Like
you got just a scuba tank sitting next to you.
They're safe. People strap them onto their backs and go underwater.
Yeah.
So.
That doesn't make it feel. That doesn't make me feel like they're safe. Oh, you want me to put this tank of O2, which is highly explosive, on my back?
No. Well, no, it's like, at least for like airbrushing, it's nitrogen. It's not like.
No, I'm talking about scuba diving, right? You're like
scuba diving.
Tanks like that. I don't like my Instant Pot, man. The thing scares me when I turn it on.
To be fair, even that, like, I think it's mostly nitrogen, if I remember right. Like, it's the reason.
But what happens if nitrogen leaks into your house? I don't know.
The air is composed of like 70% nitrogen.
Well, that's a good point.
Me
not thinking that far ahead.
Right now.
What's happening with this nitrogen in here right now? I just don't like things that are compressed in a can sitting like 10 feet from me.
I know with Drew Struzan, I've seen photos of his studio. He basically has like 2 or 3 canisters on the wall, so he always has some backup in case runs out. But he also has them basically in a little thing that keeps them against the wall, so no one can ever fuck with them. And same with Jeff Watts, who also does the same thing with like whenever he does like gouache things or whatever. He has a canister as well, and he's talked about, he's like, I have it chained up against my wall so it can't like get knocked over or whatever and cause a leak. Because that is you don't want something under pressure just all of a sudden explode because of a faulty leak or something.
So Nelson had a good point in the chat. He said nitrogen is inert, and I was like, that's again, things I don't think about. I
would say so. Like for the airbrush gun though, a good tip I've heard is basically look to see what model companies are using, like Weta Workshop or Stan Winston or whatever. Like whatever they're using, that's probably what you want to use because they have to use it day in, day out. Mm-hmm. And they can't be messing with something that's like super finicky and breaks down easily because they have the deadlines and they have shit that have to get done.
They have to they have moments to get things. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at you sent me a couple of videos from Sideshow Collectibles with the dude, how they like paint the newest statues or whatever. I think it was the Venom one. And it was painting like silver and all. And I was looking at his airbrush, like that thing had like perfect flow, and I feel like that's also it's a write off. So like I was like I should just buy something, write it off, get some of it, something.
I think
back
he
for
had. He might have had what I had, which is the Wada HPSC. It's like it's their base model. It's like it's a double action.
That's all I need, right? I just need something to start so I can show up and tell you guys how much I don't like airbrushes later.
There's two versions. There's basically two different types of airbrushes: single action and double action. I have a double action one because I didn't pick it out specifically. Like I had a friend that he was offloading his airbrush equipment, so I was like, I'll buy it for you, or from you. And
what's the point of a double action?
So basically, single action works the same way as like a spray paint canister, where however much you push down on. Actually, hold on, real quick. This will be a lot easier with a gun.
Hey, we can all see Andrew's in his boxer shorts.
You could.
No, I'm in my.
I'm just totally kidding.
Shorts.
You live in a big metropolitan area. You could probably get a used, like someone's upgrading. You could probably get like a used one and just see if you like it.
Yeah.
And then if
I should check Craigslist or something.
So like a single action is you can only do this motion. Like it can only go up and down.
Okay,
and
just sprays, period.
That controls the airflow and the amount of paint that's coming through.
Okay.
A double action has this motion where you can push down and then also push back.
Oh, so it can really let it rip.
Yeah, so what that does is pushing down controls the amount of paint that is being fed through, and pulling back controls the amount of, pushing down controls the amount of air going through, pulling back controls the amount of paint that's going through. So you can, with a double action, you can have like a large amount of air going through, but only a little bit of paint.
Okay, so maybe, that's kind of what I need, I think, because I would lose my mind if I didn't have that fine tuning.
Is that kind of like opacity and flow in Photoshop? Because I could never understand what the hell the difference between those two was.
It kind of is. To be honest, like I think a single action one is good for like 90% of things. Double action I know is used a lot with like people that exclusively use airbrush for their artwork and stuff. Model makers I've seen they use both. They use single action, they use double action, and both of them get perfectly fine things out of it. There's no detriment to being one over the other.
So I guess what's going to happen at the end of this show is I'm going to be looking at airbrushes.
Same.
Andrew already convinced me to get a 3D resin printer.
Yeah,
was it October?
Andrew also paints minis, and I think he'd definitely.
Dude, you should invest in a.
Andrew? Yeah, what minis does Andrew paint?
D&D. Like
D&D?
So we both signed up. So we got signed up for this thing called Loot Studio. There was a kid.
Yeah,
there was a kid. He's not a kid. There's an adult. It's fine. I'm not in a hurry. There was a. Oh yeah. See. So like every month the studio prints like things like this.
Yeah. I need to reprint this one for Allen because the sword got really bent because I rested it on its like that, and the sword just slowly decided to sag.
But the thing was, like, so he got me into, like, because in my head, because I'm, like, right now, Andrew's been printing them for me, right? We sign up for Loot Studios. I send him files that they print these for me, and he sends them to me. But there was this amazing printer called Jupiter, right? And it was
the Elegoo Jupiter.
Dude, it was $800, which is probably the most I spent on a piece of equipment, minus this tower.
It's the size of a mini fridge, though.
Right. Its MSRP. Its MSRP is $1,500. Okay, so Andrew was like, "Now is a good time to get it." I was like, "Yeah, you got a good point." And I was like, "If I do well at shows, I'll spend the money and buy it." And I did. And so it's just gonna be a year of me buying things I really need for it. Because the idea is to make. Nelson's gonna love this. I'm gonna make some Ancient Ones sculpts and start selling those.
Have you okay? So there's a board game called The Doom That Came to Atlantic City. The minis that come with that board it's a Cthulhu based it's a Cthulhu Monopoly, essentially. Like the game is kind of like Monopoly, except instead of trying to buy stuff, you're trying to destroy the world. It's awesome. It's super fun. But they had resin figurines of all the elder gods, and they're like the most detailed minis I have ever seen.
These are very detailed.
They were so good, and they're awesome. The thing is that Andrew, my husband, not this Andrew, He likes to paint all the little accessories that to go with the D&D games more than the actual minis. I don't think he's finished painting a figurine. He has like doors and little jars and bookcases and
Does he use them in his campaigns or anything?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's the joke Dungeons and Dollhouses, that's my husband. He spends he has more fun setting up the room and then showing us all the little things he put in than actually letting us play.
See, I've only ever painted for.
Look at this bookcase. I got this bookcase. Isn't it cute?
He builds out this whole room, and then all the characters are in there, and no one's paying attention to like the little jar that he painted.
Sorry,
see, I do like. I always just like painted, like the sculpts, basically.
Yeah.
I've never. Awesome. Thanks. I mean, yeah. I like painting them. I never like. My friends and I, whenever we play D&D with characters, it was always like, pick a sculpt that looks like the character you have. Feel free to paint it. When I was in younger, I used to paint them with my friends, and then so we show up with like cool painted. But nowadays, you're just like, I don't have time, so let's go. Also, if I'm gonna paint something, I want to paint it for myself.
Honestly, I like theater of the mind. I actually prefer no figurines and just like a grid map.
I like the grid map idea. Like, do you listen to Critical Role at all, or watch Critical Role?
I've seen it.
It's all right. I'm always like, I like how they do where like they do a lot of that, like you said, the theater of the mind the whole way through, and then when a fight's about to happen, he brings out like this elaborate ass board that somebody painted, or I don't know, Mercer does it himself, but it's got like the characters there. The characters are already done; they're ready for the game, right? So they show up anytime this happens. But he always brings out this cool little, like they were fighting in like a hotel room in one. It was just like this little room. And he put it down and had a little table and bookcases and all that, and then the characters. And I was like, that's cool. Like, and they don't you don't have to be watching, so you can just listen. I like the beauty of it is you can just listen and you can still understand what's happening.
Yeah.
If you get the bonus, if you happen to be watching it live, then you get that bonus of seeing this cool little set they built, right? Well, and I'm always like, I wish I had built a set like that sometimes.
When you start getting too much into the minis, all the cool moves that like the whole point of D&D for me is like imagining not the literal move that the game, like the mechanics give you, but like what it actually is supposed to look like in a movie in my mind. And when you get into the minis, people are like, I moved 2 hexes. I'm like, 2 hexes is not a cool fantasy term. Like that is the mechanics. Can you like describe it in a cool way? Like, I slit his throat and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, I rolled a blah, 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 and I used +2 on my weapon. I'm like, no, like, that's not why I play D&D. But also, Andrew, you were trying to say something before.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So, I was looking at the Doom that came to Atlantic City, and the sculpts are amazing, and I know why. It's because they were sculpted by Paul Komoda, who is...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Amazing like film industry sculptor, and all that. And
it's a very hard. It's very hard to find.
The whole history of that game is crazy. There was like drama on drama, and
that sounds right.
Like it was a Kickstarter, and then the guy ran away with the money, and then Cryptozoic picked it up and finally actually put the game out. It was a whole.
Oh my god!
That lore, it's pretty cool. But yes, like the graphic designer, the designer of the actual game, and the sculptor were really good. And I would suggest anyone pick it up because it's really fun to play.
It's hard to find. I'm like looking at it on Amazon, and it's like let's see. Let me look up the cost again because it seems like an item that's out of print.
Ugh, that sucks.
So let's see, buying options. It's about $100.
Whoa. Yeah, I guess I bought it on Amazon, but it was like $40, like a regular.
So it's a very rare. It's probably rare at this point. The thing with like the Cthulhu games and stuff they're like all now Winnie the Pooh is open. What is it? Open domain. I'm not saying that.
Public
domain. So like they just announced what the fuck is open domain?
I thought you were saying there was a Cthulhu Winnie the Pooh, and I was like,
so you could do that, right? Now. So Winnie the Pooh is now public domain. So if you wanted to, you could make I can't even trademark it because it's open domain. But you could make a Winnie the Pooh Cthulhu. You can do whatever you want. people on the internet have been writing
So-
Winnie the Pooh stories since yesterday, like all over
Just the
Twitter and Instagram.
Original Winnie the
there is a
Pooh,
caveat to
not
that.
the
You
Disney
cannot
version.
Correct.
You cannot trademark Winnie the Pooh. Trademark is a whole separate thing from copyright, and trademarks don't go into public domain unless they're unused. If they're
Mhm.
still being used, they basically live forever.
Right. And I don't
But
think you can
Winnie
use
the
the
Pooh, the
Disney version like
character-
you just said.
Fun fact about that: the shirt with Winnie the Pooh predates the Disney version.
Aha.
So you can go ahead and put him in a shirt if you want. Just it can't be exactly like the shape and proportions that the Disney version.
He can't be all roly poly. Yeah.
Well, because the
And
original is like lankier, because it was like
He's like he's
teddy
like a
bear.
teddy bear. Yeah.
There's
I'd
some.
totally
I was
be like,
I was reading some stuff on
Piglet,
Instagram
what
the
have
other
you
day.
done? I've opened the Necronomicon.
Dude, people have been writing for the last 2 days. Some people have been posting stuff on Instagram, like stories that they've been writing with Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
They're free. I posted some stuff in my stories earlier. They're funny. I'm just like, I love that people are just like, fuck it, I'm gonna run with this for a little bit, just because why not? Because
It kills me that this work was supposed to be originally in public domain in 2002.
Nelson said, I run a 100-acre waste one-shot post-apocalyptic Winnie the Pooh. Exactly.
Fuck yes.
Write the game. Let's go. But yeah, I feel like if you do a Cthulhu, so back to this Atlantic City thing, I feel like if you do like a Cthulhu product, and you do it well, you can't just be like, this is Cthulhu, here you go, because whatever.
Mm.
Like Brian Cullen and David LaRocca and all of them over at Infinite Black are a perfect example. They're running dice that have to do with like Cthulhu, but they do it well. And people and if you ever get a chance to talk to, like, David is a huge Lovecraft fanatic. I would call him a fanatic because that dude's knowledge on Lovecraft is out there. Like, there's shit I've talked about where I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about right now. Like, I thought I knew Lovecraft, but kudos to you, bro. Like, he knows everything. So, like, that's the beauty of, like, so if I were to just make a Cthulhu product, I could probably sell it, maybe, because people know me. But if you can't speak to it, then people are like, right?
It's hard to put in the time into a product, like your own time, and not get bored if you don't at least somewhat like the thing. Like, I've always thought, like, I could do a cash grab, whatever, and then I think about actually doing the piece, and I'm like, yeah, I can't. Like,
Exactly.
maybe some people can, but I cannot put in the hours and hours necessary into something I don't care about.
Yeah, it was like I had a friend once tell me, like, it's like if you do a thing because you really like it, people will know, and if you do a thing because you really don't like it but you want the money, people will know. Like, they'll be able to tell just by talking to you for a couple minutes, and see you like stumble and bumble your way through something you have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I've talked to people who do like Star Wars work, and then they couldn't talk. They're like, or my favorite is when I talk to somebody who did magic work who's never played Magic. And you're just like, you haven't even at least tried playing the card game that you're working on? I'm not telling you have to like it, but
I don't know.
I played all the board games I worked on.
Fantasy, because Magic is like really based on just fantasy tropes. I don't know if you have to actually play the game.
It's
like,
fun.
I know there's a lot of illustrators that are like, yeah, I've never played this game.
Yeah.
Or I have no interest, but they've been like a long-standing Magic illustrator.
I mean, it's just like when I've the wildest conversations I've ever had. I've had conversations with people who are like, I've never seen Star Wars. And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, how? I understand if like a 12-year-old said that to me, or like a 14, a young kid who's like, okay, I expect you not to have seen it. But when you meet people our age and you're like, how have you gone this long and at least not shut up, Rebecca, if you're about to say you haven't seen Star Wars.
I haven't seen Empire Strikes Back.
Oh my god. This whole conversation's gonna
go
a different way.
Like space stuff.
That's fair.
I don't know.
Totally fair. No, you know what's funny?
I'm over here trashing people who haven't seen Star Wars, and Rebecca's is like, right here, please.
This will be the one little bit of like Book of Boba Fett stuff because I said I didn't want to.
Yeah, we gotta do a whole. We're gonna do an episode on it. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, there was one thing last night. It was when he was making his Gadafi stick, the Tusken Raider stick and all that. And I said that I was like, oh look, he has to make his Gadafi stick, and my wife goes, considering you don't like Star Wars that much, you know a shit ton about Star Wars. I was like, yeah, I've just grown to really dislike it, but I still have it all rattling around in
The
my head.
knowledge is. I mean, I had a friend who knew like he knows a shit ton about Marvel, and I grew up reading. I've been reading comics since I was like 10. So in my head, I thought I've got just as much knowledge as this guy, but he was dropping all this extra information. What I found out later was he basically picked up a couple of those Marvel encyclopedias and he just read them page to page, like front to end.
That's kind of like how I was with Star Wars. I used to grab all the Star Wars encyclopedias and stuff when I was younger.
And he put that. You guys both have good memories.
The funny thing is, well, one, it's hard not to get it through osmosis. Like, if you listen to a podcast with, like I do, with Star Wars nerds, I know a ton about Star Wars. I watched the newer ones, yada yada. I actually know a lot more than people who are like diehards of the original series, because you just pick it up. And also, like, ironically, I've read a couple of the Star Wars AU from back in the day, because I was really way more into written media. And so it's a spectrum, you know. I've probably read more Star Wars books than people who are really into the movies, but I haven't seen all the movies all the way through. Like, who's a bigger, I don't know, it's all fine.
I'm not, it's fine. I mean, that'd be amazing to see you just go in there and just trounce on people. But, you know, like, I'm not going to talk about Book of Boba Fett. I don't want to. Like, we're going to save that for another episode. Yeah. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Andrew.
I love the idea, Rebecca, of you going like, I haven't seen Empire Strikes Back. I know Darksaber though. Come at me.
Right? That sounds like something she would do too. Look at her shoulder shrugging. Like, yeah, let's do it.
There's too much nowadays, I think, to spend energy ragging on people for not know. Like, there's so much stuff that people are like.
It'd be impossible to stay up with everything.
What I get caught up in with people, and this has happened to me a couple times in the Star Wars stuff, is I'm like you, Rebecca. I've read some of the books, so I have this knowledge base of the books. But then every time I bring that up with like some of my friends, they'll be like, "Yeah, but that's not part of the extended universe anymore. That's what do they call it now? Star Wars Legends." I'm like,
Legends, I think.
But I'm like, but you're seeing a bunch of stuff in the current shows that are technically considered not part of the universe, but they're picking and choosing what they're bringing in, right? So it's like, why are we even arguing about this? It's like, it's just there. But
so I don't believe in, like, yes, official canon can tell you what is likely to show up, but I can like things that are not official canon, and in my mind, I'm like, well, it's my canon because I like it more. And that's totally, because who are these things being made for? People who enjoy them. So why can't I be like, I didn't like that thing. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. I'm not going to like rant at them and be like, conform to my likes and dislikes, which a lot of people do, which is stupid. Yeah. But in my head canon, like, I'm just going to ignore that because I didn't like it. And that's fine.
Something I'm curious about, like, I've always grappled with, like, I know a lot of our friends and illustrators and all that, like, have no problem doing fan art of things that they like or whatever. I always grappled with that for a really long time for myself. Like, especially because, like, a lot of the things that most people do fan art of, like Star Wars, Marvel stuff, like, I have zero interest to do any of that kind of stuff. And it was only within, like, the past couple years that I started to do some fan art of things that I like. Like, now, recently I was considering making, like, a Pirates of the Dark Water illustration.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
You're the guy. I was trying to remember that a couple weeks back. I'm like, I saw a trailer. My cousin sent me a trailer for that. Like, remember this cartoon? I was like, one of my friends really likes this one, but I can't remember who.
It was one of those shows that, like, it hit at the right point for me where I was like, oh, I'm kind of getting into, like, weird things. And this was, like, a weird thing. I was like, I like this.
Paint it.
And
do it.
Yeah. No, I was waiting for supplies, which I think actually came earlier because I heard the doorbell ring. But yeah, no, like, that was something that I grappled with for ages, like, in terms of how to navigate. Because, yeah, like, fan art, especially, like, in terms of, like, convention stuff, where fan art is usually an easier thing for people to latch onto because they already have that mental buy-in and be like, I know and understand this thing, so I like this thing immediately, versus an original work where they see it and they're like, this kind of reminds me of this thing, but maybe it's not that. Like, my Undertow piece always reminds people of BioShock, has zero influence from BioShock on it, but that's always the thing that they go to for it. And that is coincidentally always the big one that always sells for prints compared to everything else.
I mean, that's
And
like,
it's like, well, I was gonna say, like, have you guys ever had to try and navigate that yourselves, or have you always been pretty clear in terms of like where you lay with that?
I'm gonna let Rebecca go first.
I mean, I have a personality flaw where I have hipsterism in that when I was a kid, I always wanted to do a tarot deck, and now that everyone's doing them and it's really popular, I'm like,
You don't
no, I
want to
don't
do
wanna
it now.
do it.
Sure.
So my likes and dislikes have always been so eclectic that like nobody ever was fans of them. Like my favorite show when I was a kid was Shadow Raiders. Literally nobody's ever heard of it.
I gotta
And
look
like
that one up.
Raiders.
it
I'm looking
was
it up.
it's like one of those early 3D attempts of like a full show with like early 2000s
Oh
3D.
my god, it's
And
1998.
yeah. So I've tried doing fan art and then I quickly stopped
You know what?
doing it because
You know what it looks like, right? It looks like what was it called? Reboot. I think it was
Reboot.
called.
It
Yeah.
came out, I think they aired like next to each other. Yeah.
Ah,
Although
okay.
Reboot looked better, but this was like very ambitious.
Oh, it's the same production company.
Makes
Ah,
sense.
the plot
Yeah,
thickens.
Mainframe Entertainment.
People always tell me like, "Oh, why don't you do Wonder Woman?" Because you know, gold, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I've tried. My problem is, again,
If
it's
your
that
heart's
thing
not
where,
in
like,
it,
Yeah, if you're not,
I don't read Wonder Woman. I've never read Wonder Woman. I don't know enough about it to be able to do it justice. So I stop. Like I stopped the sketch because I'm like, people are gonna tell that you can tell that like this person is just doing this for the recognition. Also, what's the difference between one of my characters and Wonder Woman? Like I could draw a girl in a skimpy outfit with like dark hair. Is that what makes it? No, like you need to know all those things and
Yeah.
the backstory. And my biggest thing with my art is you have to get the figure moving in the way that their brain works. And so I don't know enough about how Wonder Woman thinks or what she's like to be able to pose her correctly in my opinion. And so I just think you can just tell that I just don't know anything about this. And so I've tried over the years and I just give up because there's just no point. Even if I did get more money, I just don't think it would work. So
I mean, I started out doing fan art because it was like the first thing I leaned into, right? Like I never thought about illustrating my own series. I was always like writing the ideas for it and writing stuff down. And then when I started doing the fan art, my friend Sean was the one who was like, "Why aren't you illustrating your stories too?" In my head, I was always going to hire another illustrator to do that stuff because I just didn't think I want. Obviously, I illustrate my own stuff and I got better at it, right? But the fan art stuff was very like rough. It still worked. It was like a very early version of what is now my style. But you know, every piece of fan art I created, I could speak to it, right? I only created characters because people would be like, "Hey, when are you gonna do a piece on like character A or character B?" And I'd be like, "I don't like that character." Like everyone, like I did, I don't even remember any of the characters right now, but like I did Star Wars stuff because I love Star Wars. So my first piece was a Fett, right? And then when I did fan arts, like when I did comic book side stuff, I did like a Batman, I did a Spider-Man, characters that I can actually like. If we could have a full conversation about Batman, because my level of Batman is, I've been reading comics since I was like 10, so I like deep dove into these things, right? Same thing with Star Wars. Rebecca might trump me in Star Wars, it sounds like, but you get my point. Like, I never made a piece where I was just like, I've started pieces where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this piece because he's popular. Like, an example would be Cable, who I like Cable as a character in X-Men, but I don't know enough. I know more about him now. But back when I was starting that stuff, he was a cool character from X-Force. I didn't know a ton of stuff about him. I knew, like, his first appearance of Cable and all that was very rough. But he just wasn't a character I really liked that much until I read more of his comics. But I tried doing this awesome Cable piece. It looked okay to me, but I was like, if somebody were to walk up to my booth and say, awesome, I wouldn't be able to speak to it. And I saw this happen I had a friend who was doing a lot of fan art too. And when people would ask him, "Hey, I saw you did this piece," he'd be like, "I did it because I just for fun," but he couldn't speak to the piece. And then he lost the sale and probably a customer because they were like, "Why is this guy doing fan art of X if he doesn't know anything about it?" Right? So like you gotta. And I realized, like you were saying, Andrew, like people will relate to. If I were to fill my table with fan art pieces, I'd probably make more money at a show because people can relate to it, right? Not
It's
saying
also fleeting though, because
yeah, it is because there's so much
they
of
buy
it.
it one time, but then they're not going to buy. They're not going to
Right.
come back and buy it again or something,
And
unless you keep putting out more fan art.
like when I shifted into the Ancient One stuff, I shifted by bringing a couple pieces and I integrated it at the end of the table until they slowly started taking over the table.
Yeah.
And I had people still stop by and like who were like, "Hey, I would like to pick up like your Captain America," and I'd be like, "I no longer have it." And I stopped selling it. And there's the only time the fan art came back was, and this is a story that almost broke me, and I'll just say it live, but I'm not going to reveal people's names. But I was at a show and I had fan art on one side of the booth. I was going to do a fire sale on the rest of it, just get rid of it all, right? And then on the other side of the booth was all Ancient Ones because I was like, this is the new shit. This is the cool stuff, right? And I had some artists at that show take a photo of my stuff, post it publicly saying I stole the artwork, like I was putting a filter on it and selling it. And you really can't argue that with people, right? It's hard to like get through to people's heads and being like, no, I did the work. And yes, and this is where I started taking classes with Scott, because Scott's like, you do have a very poster edge style. I can see why people would think you're using a filter. Let's get better at this. He called it jacking it up, like because it's a lot of lasso tool, right? And he's like, let's do more so people can't. He's like, it's hard to explain to people that you're not using this filter when they think it's there, so you're using it. And I said, okay, that makes sense. But I had to go through about 16 hours of trolls just trashing the work.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say anything because all my artist friends are like, don't say anything. Anything you say is like blood in the water. And you're at that show with this artist who did this to you. I walked over to her table. I'm not going to name her, but her art was garbage. I don't say that about a lot of people, but I was like, I felt like she didn't like her own work. I didn't think it was that good at the time either because I was super mad. And I was about to flip her table. I was about to just be like, here's how we do shit in Chicago. But I had friends like holding me back who were like, just let it go.
She thought you were posterizing your own art or the fan art stuff?
So what at that time I was using like
fan
Sideshow.
Art, I think, right?
It's the fan art. I was using I was using like Sideshow collectibles as because I was learning still, right? So my reference models were all Sideshow statues and stuff. So what they were doing was like finding the statues and being like, here's a statue used for that. Here's a statue used. And I was like, I've never not denied that. Like, why are you making me sound like... And the thing was, I couldn't defend myself. They're making it sound like I was super guilty of doing this. Like, and that's the thing. When people like complain that you use reference, and I was like, yeah, it's that. Yes, that is a statue I use.
That's what all artists do.
Yes, welcome to...
My question was like, so what if you used a poster? Like, does it look good? You could, if you just posterize something, it looks completely different. Like, you can tell there's artistry, and if you use posterize as a tool, who the hell cares?
So yeah, those are the kind of things.
They don't understand that.
Yeah, they don't understand that. This was like an early version of me learning, but then after having multiple mentors who are like, there's enough. That now my mindset is the filter's there. If I want to use it, I use it. Like I've used that filter for like skies all the time because it's fucking there, and I've seen my mentors use it for their work as well. You just have to do that extra step, as Scott calls it, jacking it up, right? Put a little extra flair in there to make it your own thing. But at that time, I was like, I don't know what's happening, and it was a disaster. Like, to the point where they had the showrunners come over, and they wanted me to take the stuff down. And I was just like, okay. I've never gone back to the show after that, and I'll tell you about what show it is later if you want. But either way, that's what made me really, like, say, this isn't what I want to do anymore. I want to lean in my own IP. I know what I'm doing. I knew people were losing their fucking minds when they were looking at like my mermaid piece, and they were like, I think I know where he stole this from. And I'm like, oh, you my reference is my wife. You've met my wife? Like, no, you haven't, because you're a lying piece of shit. But so I started like, that's when I leaned heavy into the Ancient One stuff. And kudos to anyone who's doing fan art if you can get a job in the industry doing it. But if you're just doing it trying to
I was going to say,
a quick
the finger thing means the money. Most of the time, you're not getting paid for fan art. Why would I do it? Like, if they hire me, I'll do fan art, but it's official. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it on my own free time.
Like, if I can get a job doing like, if I can get a gig doing like I love X-Men. Like, if they were like, hey, do a cover for us, in
They
your
have
style.
variant covers. You could totally do one of those. Have you been applying?
No.
Emailing those art directors?
No.
AllenPanakal, get on your ass and email art directors.
I like I was saying, I like, so here's the, I like doing my own stuff. Like the art director that was in Scott's class on Wednesday, literally it was like asking each one of us, what do you want to do? And like, I was literally like, I just want to work on my own stuff. Like, I want to get better at what I'm doing so I can keep working on it. I think the next level up for me is going to be traditional a little bit, just to see if it's something I could do. Right?
Let's become airbrush buddies.
I'm in. We're
gonna buy airbrushes, the both of us. I'm gonna share, like, oh, look at this ugly thing I made with my new airbrush.
Andrew's gonna be like, you guys suck.
No, because I definitely don't do it on the level of some people do with airbrushing.
I've seen some, yeah.
The most I have like with like my stencils is I use either an index card or where is he? I use like a triangle, like here he is. This guy. I just use this one. I'll just hold it up and be like, and have a hard edge.
I mean, that is it's just like when you see people using like the paper, right? They just put a piece of paper down, get the hard edge.
Well, I was gonna say there's some people that do like crazy films where like they're almost doing separations.
You know what's crazy for me is the people that do the spray cans with like and they make like, they like make like full like space scenes, and they're like usually like on the street somewhere, and you're like, why aren't you doing this at a show? Like, if you're like a one-of-a-kind painting right here, $200, I'm going to make it for you right now, right?
Yeah.
It's unique to just you.
I have one of those paintings in my house, actually. One of my friends bought it for me, like, years ago as a Christmas present. He was like, I was watching this guy. He was doing spray paint, and then he was, like, setting it on fire to make it drip and everything. And he's like, it looks cool. I wanted to buy it. It's like, yeah, it does look cool. It's like a weird space version of Salvador Dali.
See? That's where we need to get.
A piece of sidewalk that...
Oh, did she freeze on us?
Yeah, a little.
Oh, she dropped. Oh, no. Oh, she's back.
Here we go.
Let's see where this goes.
Sorry, guys. I apparently got discorded. It's,
Yeah, we heard a piece of concrete or sidewalk, and then it just went away.
I forgot that they do it with, on paper. I thought that someone had like spray painted the sidewalk and your friend like dug up the sidewalk and like...
Oh, that would have been hilarious.
Your video is dead. I don't know
my
if you have
video is off, right? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
But yeah, like, I think that's kind of like those kind of stories, like that story stuck with me. That was a very bad week for me, because in my head I was like, maybe you're not as good as you think you are and you're not doing anything right. But luckily I have friends who are like, just keep leaning on, ignore that and lean on this, right? And that went away. It literally went away in 16 hours. I just had to get through 16 hours of that, right?
Here's the thing. There's only so many art supplies. So you can give two different artists a pencil. We've been using the same freaking things for, time immemorial. Photoshop is the same thing. Go to those complainy people and be like, all right, if I copied it, why don't you just do it too? Make a lot of money.
Right. I mean, that's where they won't, because everyone's a keyboard hero, and that's where. Exactly. But I feel like it also, like, if you want to look at it in a positive way, it's one of those things that pushed me harder into what I do now. Because in my head, I was like, I'm going to do this so well, like, and I'm just going to do it, and you're not going to be able to, like, if you want to come at me, because I don't fucking care. Because there's thousands of people out there, like more than that. I have so many fans. It's great, right? And then if there's one shitbag who's like, I don't like, I've had people at Gen Con be like, this doesn't do it for me. And I'd be like, cool, keep walking. So my friends have seen me literally tell people to keep walking when they come to my booth and say something bad to me. Because I had a guy, one of the stories that most of the artists in the Rusty remember is, there was a dude at my booth once who walked over and said, your prices are too high. And I said, well, then my product's not for you. And he was shocked that I said that. And I was like, what do you want me to say?
Great offense at that from what I remember.
He walked away, right? And then somebody else bought the piece that he was looking at, and he came back and said, oh, somebody bought that? And I said, yeah, my prices weren't too high for him. And the same dude came back a third time.
What do you want you to do? Like,
I think he was trying to make
due to your opinion, I'm sorry, I'm based on just your opinion. I'm gonna change everything about how I do things.
Well, here's the thing. That dude came back later and bought a piece from me, right? Same dude who complained once, asked a question a second time, came back, bought a piece, and even before I rang him up, I said, "Are you sure my prices aren't too high for you?" Because in my head, I was like, "Fuck you! I don't need your sale, but I want you to understand that everything here is priced accordingly because I worked hard to make this stuff, right?" Like
he was begging you.
I think he wanted me to drop the cost.
I was just about to say that. I think he was trying to neg you.
It doesn't work on me.
You should have asked him out on a date. Maybe he was just trying to neg you into a date.
Or neg.
I was not interested.
Like a weird negging that is haggling, but really bad haggling.
I also had. I've also had people like for years. First year or so when I was doing the shows, people would always like you were talking about how people compare it to something. People would always be like, "This reminds me of Destiny," and yeah, a lot of my stuff does look like but I'd always be like, what about this game? What about like this book? Like they would always say my Jupiter character reminded them of the Fallen. I said he's actually based on from John Carter of Mars. They have a 4-armed alien race there, right? Like that's what kind of started the inspiration for that character. Also the Headless Horseman, believe it or not, because he didn't have a head when I first made him. His fucking cloak is basically a redcoat's coat, what are they, British, right? The British redcoats. Mm-hmm. Like that's what the reference was when I made it, but nobody gives a fuck to hear that. They only want, and I had to accept this, right? Now when I see somebody at when people come to my booth and say, "Hey, that reminds me of Destiny," I'll be like, "Cool, thanks," right? Or I'll say, maybe the people
Destiny got their shit from those older references.
So
they're just ignorant. They're just, you don't know the history of every reference, and Destiny.
Well, what I say now is if somebody says, "Hey, that reminds you of X, Y, or Z," I say, "Yeah." I said maybe the creators of that and myself have similar influences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna lean on that? I'm gonna be like, you're an asshole, But my point is, if you keep doing what you enjoy doing, like we all do now, right? People can tell, like, oh, Nelson, yeah, I have 2 metal cards, one with the head, one without. Yeah, so Nelson has an original version of Jupiter. Nelson's actually got, I think he's got 2 of my master editions in his house, too. So the big boys, right? So my prices were not too high for Nelson. He bought the stuff. He took it home,
I think, Alan, that really got under his skin. I don't know about you, but something tells me that really bothered him.
I did, and that's what my point is. Like, I've seen artists who are like someone will say something bad to them at their booth, and you can see it like really like. There was an artist at Gen Con. Somebody said his art looked like shit to him, I think, and I immediately messaged that artist to be like, "Don't listen to what that guy just said. It doesn't fucking matter what he thinks. Your art's amazing. You're doing great. It's one moron out of like hundreds of people who like your stuff."
Time. I don't get these people like. I mean,
it's one thing to say. It's one thing to say to live. Yeah,
and like they're like, "Oh, putting this person down will make me feel better," but like, Jesus, get a hobby.
And that's like that. When you do more shows, you'll understand you have to grow that like extra thick skin. I think for that because there's gonna be. It's every show. It's every show. Well, I mean, I'd love to see somebody say that to you because I feel like you'd probably fucking Indiana Jones them, like just take their heart out. Or what's that move called in Kill Bill? The 5-finger death punch or whatever?
Yeah, 5-finger death punch. I remember MegaCon one year. I had Jeff Deckel buy like my sketchbook, and then
awesome.
I want to say it was like an hour later. Some random guy came up to me. He took a look at my work, and then he just laughed. He goes, "It's not that good. It's not that good." And he walked away. It's like, I mean,
I would have been like, "So's your face."
that guy just bought the sketchbook earlier. Right. He liked it.
It's like every show, man. Like even this year, every show I did this year, there's always gonna be one person or 2 people who are just like,
yeah.
And the thing is, sometimes they just walk by and they don't really say to you. They just say to like their friends, like, "Hey, it just doesn't do it for me." It's like, okay,
yeah.
But I learned now to be a little more, unless they're like directly coming at me with something, I'm just like, cool, whatever, 5-point palm exploding heart technique. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
I was taught never say that shit to someone's face. Like, who raised
There are so many people that are like super cavalier about it.
If cavalier is a good way to say it, right? You're just like, when you hear it, you're like, But I also want
You
to
know what,
talk
Alan?
about what's up.
Oh, I was gonna say you should do like what there's a scene in Riccio. A man punches another man clean through the chest. Better than the 5-point finger explosion.
I mean, the 5-point finger explosion is clean. Like you don't have to deal with blood later. They just die.
It was I did not see any blood on that man's fist afterwards. He punched it all the way through. Like all the blood just exploded out.
Andrew's favorite movie, by the way.
Like I like a throat
Amazing
rip
movie.
where you just rip someone's like trachea
Oh,
out. I've always
yeah.
liked that in
That's
movies.
always crazy.
That sounds about
Yes.
right.
What gave it?
I also oh man, I get that a lot with my anthro work. Oh yeah, Blind Coyote, how's it going, man? Yeah, like I think we all have. You can talk to any artist we bring on this show. We've all had like one person or two people say something dumb about our work, because it like even at a LuxCon, I had a collector who was giving me a hard time at LuxCon in 2019 because she said is this original work, and I said yes, and she said but it's not, and I said but it is. It's my own series. I'm the creator and illustrator, the creator and writer for the series, and she said but it's not traditional. I'm like, but you didn't ask traditional. You said original. And she said, well, it's not traditional. I said, no, it's digital. She's like, so then it's not original. I'm like, no, you're saying the wrong thing.
That's a dumb, weird hashing of terms. Yeah.
And I was like 2 or 3 rum and cokes deep because Bud Cook kept buying me drinks. And I was like, so in my mindset, if you meet a sober me, I can be kind of nice to you and talk to you. But if you meet a somewhat buzz me, the Chicago in me is going to come out a little bit. And this lady was in my face.
That's the most ignorant thing to say. Right. One, you don't even know how words work.
Literally, well, I didn't realize.
It's not an art thing. It's you're not using the right word.
Yeah, so I said, you're not saying it right. And I didn't realize she was a collector at this time. I just assumed she was some random lady getting up my ass about this. I said, you're not using it right. I said, if you're asking if it's original because I created it. I drew it. I wrote the story here. If you're asking if it's traditional, it's not. It's digital. And she goes, well, I only buy traditional stuff. I said, well, then there's nothing here I can sell you. And then I said, move it. I literally went, move it along, right? And she she was not happy with that, right? And she said, well, do you plan on doing traditional? And I said, yeah, maybe. And we talked about this already. I was thinking about doing some traditional works. I said, yeah, maybe next year I might have some traditional work. I still need to practice and play around with it. And then she said, well, maybe I'll buy something next year. And I said, maybe I won't sell it to you. And she was like, huh? And I was like, yeah.
I remember you telling me this story.
And I literally went, gets to stepping, right? Like, get the fuck away from here. And she kept walking by every once in a while and staring at my stuff. And I said, still digital, like still original, and I kept saying that to her every time I saw her. And I was telling Mark this story later, and he told me who she is. And she's a collector. And he was like, bold of you to say that to her. And I'm like, clearly she feels it's okay to say it to me.
Talking about.
We'll talk about this later. We could talk about this later. Don't name her on the show though.
No.
Yeah.
The thing that I always find weird, I mean, it's a thing with our society, but essentially a lot of collectors have a weird arrogance about like, oh, you dang
inflated ego.
My art. It's like, you're a person with money. I really appreciate it. I hope you like the art, but you're not the king of the universe because you are a collector. Like,
yeah, I've sold a lot of things before I got here and spoke to you.
Yeah.
As if like your entire existence at this show was just to sell to this one, because she got personally offended, as if like, it's like, what? I mean, I will sell to, if someone scraped together their life savings and they're not a collector, but they spent $10,000 on a piece, like, I'm going to treat them with just as much awe and respect for buying my art than someone who's a regular collector, because money speaks. It's not like you don't get a crown or something for like.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wanted to be nice to her. She just didn't come off. She came in hot, right? And I was just like, let's do this.
Well, I mean, it's like a insult. She's essentially saying like your art is worth nothing because you're not doing traditional work, and it's like,
oh yeah, the hate that sometimes digital artists get, and you're just like, why? I mean, I like both.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. I like traditional. I don't like digital. People
That's
get so
such
upset
a
when you say your art is not
I
made
don't
for.
like
Yeah.
originals. I like prints half the time because it's easy to get them and I get to look at more beautiful art every day because I can't afford half the pieces I really like, but a print, digital or otherwise, like I get to
Yeah, like
isn't the point to look at beautiful art? I don't care. Especially some traditional art is indistinguishable from digital art. So it's like you're telling me that I have to place more worth on this just because it's like on a thing.
and it can go both
and
ways, right? Like when the art director was looking at the work in class on Wednesday, it's cool because he was looking at some stuff that looked traditional, and then the artist was like, "No, it's digital," and you're like, "Yeah, like
they can't tell
that's
half
how
the
good it is, right?" Like it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter how it was made, you know. Like I have some traditionals, like you see my back wall there, but that's stuff I like. Some of it's all original stuff, you know. Like I saved up, and like you were saying, sometimes it's easier just buy a print just because you like it that much and you want to take it home.
Mm-hmm.
LuxCon's one of those shows where I save up money through the year, and I'm like, I have this much money to spend, and I kind of want to buy like at least one original and take it home with me. Like, did you meet Brianna this year? I'm gonna try to get on the show, but you can't really see it. This tiny piece right here. No, she was on an angle on the aisle for me. She paints on pennies. It's super tiny. So think of a penny. It's painted on a penny.
Oh my god!
And so that's an original that I own that piece, right? But it was like I couldn't leave without I was like, that has to come back with me. It's that good, you know. And it's different because I've never seen anyone paint on pennies. Like it wasn't like she was like, I'm gonna paint a flower and sell it to you, right? It's like it's a fucking landscape. You guys should be aware. It's like a house with a field and shit. It's amazing. So she had a baby, a Groku, a baby Yoda, as people call him. But I missed. By the time I decided I had to make money at the show before I can spend money at the show, basically.
And by that time, someone had snatched it up.
Yeah. Nelson, I don't know if it's a federal offense, man, but I said it live now. So Nelson said, "Isn't that a federal offense to paint on a penny? It's a penny. I suppose people can do whatever they want."
There's exceptions for art.
I was gonna say, isn't it only a federal offense if you try and use it for legal tender afterwards?
Yeah. There's exceptions for art, and also yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Nelson's just trying to be funny, I think. Now, you know, that's another example. Like Nelson's a huge fan, right? But I don't. He can say it if he wants to. I don't treat him any differently than anybody else. He gets the same shit everybody else gets from me, right? Like he says something wrong, I call him out. He says something funny, I laugh. He says something, you know, like that I don't want to deal with, I'll tell him. Like
that's why we love you, Allen.
That's, you know, so I was trying to think about the first time I met Rebecca, and it was I think it was my first year at a LuxCon, which was the last year I think it was in Allentown. And you came out of nowhere. I didn't know. I obviously did not know who you were. And she was just like, I like you. You're like different, and I like you. And I was just like, that's cool. And I was just excited to be around artists, right? So I was just like,
something extremely offensive. Because every time I get together with Allen, I somehow manage to annoy or insult him.
I don't think you insulted me this time. You mildly annoyed me, though. If you want to put it that way. You can't tell Rebecca something like, don't press the red button, because she'll be like, bonk, you know, and then everybody in the room fucking dies, because that's who she is. So
every LuxCon, I have a story about me annoying Allen. One time it was the airport thing, I think.
What was the airport thing?
Thing.
A couple of LuxCons ago, and you came with a story about how you were like harassed at the airport, and I kept making airport jokes at you.
Oh, there was an incident at the airport where the short version is a white dude in a suit was being checked. He pointed at me and said, "Why are you checking me? You should be checking that guy." And then a black woman who saw it basically said, "Give that guy a full body check." And they took him into the room where they check you thoroughly. Came over to me and said, "I don't like racists either, baby." And I posted that because I was like super mad. I was like, "What the fuck?" You know, like, and in my head I was like, if I see that guy on the airplane with me, I'm gonna smack him. You know, this is like way before COVID and all that, so I definitely could see his whole face. But But then I got to the show, and like every time I see Rebecca, she'd be like making cracks about it, and I'd be like, it's not funny, man. I wanted to
No.
be like, listen, yeah, yeah, white privileged, like I was like, what level do I want to meet Rebecca at? But then I realized that, so like this year, I kept buying pizza at night, so Andrew Thompson nicknamed me Pizza Daddy, which at first I was like, that's funny.
That's a good name.
Yeah.
Why,
I was like,
Alan? Your
it
like
became annoying because
earliness
every
just
time I
scares
came around
me.
the corner, here's the thing, Andrew, everyone watching. Here's the thing. It was funny, and I was buying pizza for artists because we stay up till like 1 or 2 in the morning. We're all
I
extremely
didn't know that was you.
So yes, that was me who would be like, I preemptively would order Domino's, knowing
Brianna's fault. It's Penny Girl's fault because she told me that's what they were calling you, and I thought.
So here's the thing, which is fine. It's funny, it's adorable. But the thing with Rebecca was every time I would come around the corner or she'd see me, she'd be like, "Pizza Daddy, Pizza Daddy." And at one point, I was trying to have a serious conversation with Shanna, a serious conversation. All I hear from my right ear every like 30 seconds is "Pizza Daddy," and I finally just looked over at her like, seriously. Shut the fuck up.
You were trying to get your attention.
I know you were, but you would think, but that's the thing, like everyone's drunk. So I was just like, so then the next day she was like, I feel like I know. I'm like, no, it's fine. It was just, sometimes it edges on being bullied. So that's why I was ignoring her, because I was just like, stop fucking talking. I'm in the middle of something. But I explained myself to you and we're fine. And that's the point.
I mean, the more I rag on someone, the more I like them. I think Ellen and I come from big cities, and his like surliness, I'm just like, oh, it's like a familiar big city like irritation. Everyone at Aluxcan is so like nice that I'm just like, a kindred spirit that's like hates everything. And
yeah. I think if you were to if you put Rebecca and me next to each other through a whole show, we'd be like those two Muppets that are in the
Stadler and Waldorf.
Yeah, just fucking ragging on people all day. That's exactly because everything annoys me, but I'm really good at not saying the quiet part loud all the time.
I'm not good at that.
She's the opposite. Yeah, exactly.
The one and last time I was at Kansas City Comic-Con, Andrew was there with me, my husband, and he wasn't my husband at the time. He almost got us jumped by a crazy homeless person because he made eye contact and he started talking to him. And we were like, no, Andrew, don't talk to them. Then he was like, what? Why? And I was just like...
You can't talk... Well, you can talk to them. You just got to be able to assess the situation before you do it.
Not that kind. He was... He wanted some... I don't know what he wanted. A fight or something. But yeah.
So I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon because we're about 27 minutes over, which is fine. I think this conversation's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone watching have any questions for Rebecca? I know we kind of talked about the artwork, but we didn't really deep dive into it.
Was this show supposed to be about art?
No. Like the whole idea behind it, like I said before we started, was literally what just happened. We went through like 7 or 8 different topics and then we came back here.
I mean, we spend so much time on our art that when we're with other people, the last thing half of us want to talk about is our own art. It's like, oh, thank you.
It's like
what you doing? What are you watching?
Story, like, what is it? The apocryphal story, like Frank Rosetta. Anytime you ever talked to him, it was never about art. It was always about like baseball. Like, dude never talked about art.
I mean, that's exactly because because that's all he talks about. I posted Rebecca's Instagram it should show up. Yep, it's if you go to her website, which is Rebecca Yanovskaya, it's YANOVSKAYA.com. By the way, Rebecca, your site is not secure. You need to take care of that in Squarespace. It's very easy to do.
Their fault.
No, it's actually your fault for not turning it on. I'm just kidding. It's very easy to do in Squarespace. Just turn on your SSL certificates in Squarespace. And
Yeah. I haven't updated it in so long.
But if you guys go to her website, like all her socials are there. It's actually a really clean site.
She got a Google alert that mobile issue with my website. The elements are too close together, so I got to fix that.
Oh.
I didn't know Google did that. They just like randomly sent me an email like, you have a mobile user issue.
Yep. Well, it might be the SSL certificate. Hey, Sean, what's up? Sean wrote, with intent to render such bank bill, draft note, and or other evidence of debt unfit to be reissued. What is that from, man?
Oh, he's probably reading about the legality of
Your website?
Like, defacing money or whatever.
Oh, got it. With the penny. Got it. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go, Nelson. I mean, I'm hoping Brianna gets on the show someday because it's wild. Her stuff is wild. But yep, I guess there's no questions for you, Rebecca. But that's cool. That's the whole point. We talked about your stuff. We promoted it a little bit, and then we waxed poetic about LuxCon.
Hey, I'm out there. You can ask me yourself.
We'll see. We'll see at this year's LuxCon what new thing she annoys me with.
Well, now I'm gonna try to be on my best behavior because I don't want him to hate me.
I don't hate anybody really.
What about that guy who said your prices were?
I don't hate him. He's, people say dumb things all the time. I don't hate you unless you directly try to hurt me somehow. Then I hate you. Even then, I don't hate you. I just strongly dislike you. I don't like the word hate. But
it takes too much energy. I don't think I hate anyone anymore. As a teenager, I hated everything because you have a lot more time and energy as a teenager, and now I'm just like, it's just
Now I'm like, do I have time to watch a television show before last night I was on a call with a friend, and then at the end of that call I was like, I really want to watch an episode of this show, but also sleep sounds great. Nowhere in that thought process was Book of Boba. I wanted to watch that second episode one more time because I want to see if I missed anything. I ended up watching Wheel of Time, actually. I had never read the books. This is a whole different conversation, but I've never read the books. So I'm not hating the show, but people who have read the books are really ramped up about whatever. And I'm just like...
And I have had zero interest to do either.
It's not, here's the other thing. Like in our Discord group, you'll hear people ranting about things to a level where I'm just like, damn. Where I'm just like, I think Andrew and I are the same in the sense where I'm very easy to I can just watch something to a degree and just be like, that was cool. I know people who hate The Rocketeer, but I think The Rocketeer is a great movie. I don't think
Rocketeer is such a good movie.
See? But people are like, it's hot garbage because blah, blah, blah. This. I'm like, yeah, but it was made on a really tight budget. It's a low-level Disney production. He's a cool character.
I've never heard any criticism about Rocketeer. What do people say?
People just don't like it, right? People just don't like it because they're used to this is a whole deep dive, but it's like The Rocketeer, The Shadow. These are all superheroes that were
I like The Shadow too a lot, actually.
Dude, I love that movie. I made my friend download it on Plex for me, right? I'm like, put that shit on Plex, I can watch it.
It's just cool to hate certain things. People latch on to oh, everyone's allowed to hate on this thing, so but also some people feel like they're personally being judged because the adaptation isn't what they had in their mind, and I'm just more like, the thing I have in my brain's not going away. They tried and they failed, as with most things, because it's really hard to adapt books into TV. And knowing the process, I've worked on a TV show. I worked on Shadowhunters, and if you've ever seen the process behind the scenes, you understand completely how these decisions get made and how things get permutated to what they end up being. And it's
honestly amazing anything gets to screen.
Yeah, it's no one person's fault. Nobody's evil and cackling behind the scenes I'm going to ruin this for the fans. It's just a ton of tiny decisions. And
unless you're that one guy, Andrew, for Marvel. What's his name?
Ike Perlmutter?
Oh shit. Oh yeah. Yeah, wait, is he still president of Marvel? With the comics? I don't know.
But you bring him up every time. I'm like, there's that guy. Well, that guy is a prime example. Somebody doesn't know his fan base, right?
He was also a dude from the top down that basically was flexing his power before Kevin Feige and Disney told him he had to cut that shit out.
Well, he came from a toy background. All he cared about was money, shareholders, and selling toys. So it's not that he was evil, it's that his values were completely different from what the fans wanted.
And he was very old,
I guess. Yeah, he's
very old and very white and had very antiquated opinions about
They should have given him the shadow because it was on the radio when he was a young lad trying to make toys. that movie's badass. If anyone hasn't seen The Shadow, you should go watch it. Especially my favorite scene is where the shadow goes up the stairs and he's just standing at the top. What's that?
I don't know who owns the Shadows nowadays. I think it's IDW.
I mean, I keep hearing these like rumors of a reboot. I'm just like, it's hard to reboot. There's rumors of a Rocketeer reboot. I'm like, these movies might not do so well this time, but I've been in a couple like indie flicks with friends and stuff, and I'm just always like, there's a process, and I can only imagine how hard it is to get these things done. So you got to give him some props. Nelson got it right when he said hating early 90s cinema is a low bar. Like,
it also matters when you watch something. For example, I love Home Alone 4 because
there's a 4.
Yes,
Alan, there's 6 of them.
Wait, no,
I stopped after
3.
2.
No, the one without Macaulay Culkin. It's a little brown. It might be 3.
That's 3 or 4. Yeah,
3 or 4, whatever. You if you come to something too late and you don't get hit with a media at a very specific time, you might just never get it. And so a lot of people are like, what do you mean this isn't good? I watched it I loved it since I was a kid. And it's just like, neither is wrong. It's just, I just couldn't get into it. And so you can tell me that it's a terrible movie. I will always love Home Alone 3 or 4 or whatever, because there's things that remind me of when I was a kid and I just latched onto it, and things that people hate about it, I love about it. And it's just, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's me with Evangelion. I did not see it when I was a teen, and I saw it actually 2 years ago or whatever, when it was finally on Netflix. I was like, all right, I'll give this a watch finally. Hate it.
So you saw the 12 episodes. So when I was gonna rewatch, because I saw it when I was younger with my cousins, and Netflix released whatever those 12 episodes, my one friend Seth was like, "Don't watch those. Watch the 3 movies." I think it's
what though, I
0, 1, and 2, or 0 or 1, 2, and 3. I forgot the order, but I had to they don't exist.
I have a problem with that kind of mindset too, where it's like you shouldn't watch this thing, you should watch only this thing. It's like, well, no,
sure.
they put out that thing originally. I don't care if it was a result of production issues or whatever. That is still a valid thing to watch. I don't care if I'm curious enough to watch it later. It'd be interesting to see those movies with that context, because I do think you would need something like that.
And by the way, Rebecca, Nelson said you should watch Empire.
Empire TV show?
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, Empire. Honestly, I've probably seen bits of it over time. I just don't think I've sat through a whole.
It's the best one out of the original 3, just so you know.
See, I don't there's things where I'm like, I just haven't seen it. Doesn't mean I dislike it. People assume that if you haven't seen it, it's because you took a personal stand, and it's like, I just haven't gotten around to it. Doesn't mean I have an opinion about it. I know it's the best one. That's what they all say. That's fine. I just.
Yeah,
see, look what you did, Nelson. This is your fault.
I think we talked about this before, Alan. To me, nowadays, for me, I don't care how bad something is. I watch a lot of bad movies now. Yeah. For me though, the biggest thing a movie can be, a movie or show can be, if it's boring, that is the worst. Be either really good or really bad to the point where I'm really enjoying it anyway for the ride, for all these weird decisions that make it up. But God, if you're boring, that is by far the worst thing you could be for a show or movie, or any kind of creative endeavor.
Watch party with me? You don't want to do a watch party with me, man. Andrew Nelson said we should do a watch party. I feel like if I do a watch party with Rebecca, she's gonna annoy me so much about Star Wars. Then I'm really gonna hate you. But let's round this out, because now we're way over, and this stream is finicky. If we go too far over, it doesn't save the last 15 minutes sometimes. So no one's going to hear us ripping into Nelson about telling us to watch Empire Strikes Back. But thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, it's super fun.
I think you're an hour behind me, maybe?
Ahead.
No, you're in Massachusetts, right?
Okay, you're an hour ahead. Okay. Yeah. Definitely would like to have you back on someday. We could talk more about...
we could talk Arcane.
Yes, you want to do one on Arcane with us? Because that would be fun.
Thoughts?
But what? You have thoughts? Okay, great. Okay, don't talk about it right now. You finish it, Andrew. Rebecca will schedule a call about Arcane with you. But let me take us offline. So hang on for a second. thanks for everyone who's watching. Nelson,
Thank
Sean.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's touch base. Give me a second here. Okay. Also, so you guys know, I should tell you who my next guest is before I forget. Let's see, Rebecca. Well, we'll see if he responds. I was hoping to get Greg Ruth on next week, but I think he's busy and I haven't heard back yet. But if I do, our next guest should be Greg Ruth. And if Greg is busy, our next guest is going to be Audra Olivia Lockwood, who I've known for a number of years. I saw her show. I don't know if you guys know her or not, but she does some amazing stuff. She has her own artwork, and then she does this thing where she gets like, like when you go to like an old thrift store and you see like those old paintings that people just threw away. She buys those and she paints stuff on top of it. It's fucking amazing. And it's actually a hard thing to do. If you don't do it right, it just looks like whatever, right? But if you do it as well as she does, you're like, that's cool. So we'll see. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, hey, what's up, dude? I didn't know you were watching too. We'll definitely try to do more and stay on top. We might do an episode tomorrow. No, after Wednesday on Book of Boba, because we're going to wait till we watch 3 episodes in. So I will post in Twitter. I'm sorry I didn't post early enough.